Council Hate Skull. I am Hella Mark Harley, and I am so grateful you're back here with me for another absolute banger, if I don't say so myself, precognitively in advance of this episode even being recorded. It's coming in hot. I'm coming in hot. We got so many good segments today. We got, let's see, we're going to talk about workout stuff. We're going to talk about psychedelics. We might even talk about some anabolics. We might look at some gym fails. We might look at some memes. All these things and more on today's episode of Haters Will Say, episode 31 with Hella Mark Harley. All right. So, guys, I just wanted to start off hot. As I said, as I previewed, I told you I wasn't going to start like normal. I'm going to come in piping hot. It's burning my mouth, in fact. So I got to get it out now. I got to spit it out. We're starting with a hey, that hurts. As you may know, if you follow me on social media, as I posted a photo the other day of me at Zoo Culture, taken by a fellow named Christian, who shoots a lot of sketches for me and Isaiah. I thought it was pretty good. Turns out some people had some negative things to say about me, and I just wanted to start with this up front to remind everyone that I am, in fact, a human being. I have feelings. You say mean things to me on the internet. Sometimes I'll pretend like they don't bother me, but in fact, it is hurtful to me, and I do experience negative emotions surrounding this sort of criticism of my physical appearance. So here's just, I collected some of these comments. I curated them. At some point, I had to stop because it does wear on my psyche. So this was just a selection off the top of the first 20 to 30 comments that I saw, but there were more. Maybe we'll cover them in another episode, but this was all I can handle. Hey, look, Santa got dumped by Mrs. Claus and started abusing human growth hormone. What's it called when someone's having a midlife crisis but they're 60? A pre-death crisis? Mean. If I leave protein pancakes instead of cookies this year, will he leave T.I.W.W.C.H.N.G in my stocking? This answers the question, what if The Witcher was 60 years old and had Down syndrome? He didn't get the memo that past a certain percentage of gray hair, it's no longer a man bun, it's a grand bun. His abs are almost as asymmetrical as his face. Proof that working out a lot doesn't always make you look better. He looks like a giant penis that's on the prowl for giant penis. How long did it take for the cops to come escort that guy out of Zoo Culture? Sir, the court order says you have to stay 100 yards away from the 21-year-old influencers. Come with us. Every time he spoke to another lifter at Zoo that day, the sentence started with, back in my day, we didn't have fancy weight rooms like this. I'm assuming they intended for my voice to be like a grandpa voice. He looks like the type of guy who would get a BBL. I would, if I felt like I needed it. I do have hip dips. He's pretty ripped. I don't know what has more striations, his pecs, his shoulders, or his face. Is that a wrinkle joke? I don't like it. This is what a cry for help looks like. He'll tell you he hasn't gone to Thanksgiving in 10 years to stick to his diet, but really it's because his family doesn't like him. He told the photographer, make me look young. The photographer said, got you, fam. You about to look just like Carl Jung. Can we show what Carl Jung looks like? Because I feel like it's an unfair criticism. If we're going to compare me to somebody, maybe we should just... There we go. That picture right there. That's what I'm talking about. This guy. Do I really look like him? I mean, aside from the gray hair. Okay, maybe he's got a point. Let's just put it away. I can't handle it. Liver King meme of the week. Oh my God. So I guess Liver King's doing like this Primal Scream challenge. Of course he is, because it's going to be interesting to see how long this goes on. Like, how long is Liver King going to be a thing? He's going to make it through the year. Is it going to be 2 years, 3 years? How much daily content, are we going to be drawn to? How far can he take it, right? So the challenge here, if we click on that video right there.
Yeah! Primal! You just heard Liver King's Primal Roar. Now it's your turn. Share and tag me in your story, and we'll be reposting the most dominant roars. Liver King, out!
So, okay, this is probably my favorite page just because they're like 90% devoted to making fun of the Liver King. _fit memes. You guys are awesome and hilarious. And they, a lot of times they just take his videos and use the high-pitched voice on it, but it works. And so the follow-up to that Liver King meme of the week is this little picture right there. The first thing you see after tagging Liver King in your Primal Roar video. a divorce petition. Boom! Got him. Okay, so that pretty much covers everything for the entire podcast. Goodbye. No, I wanted to start up front with those fun things so we can get into some more serious stuff, and I don't feel bad about boring you guys. Sup, fool. This is the section, in case you didn't know, where I talk about what's up with me. And, that could be a range of things, from what I've been ingesting intellectually to what I've been doing, who I've been seeing. Here's something that you guys might not know. I had pizza 3 days in a row last week.
What?
Oh my God, I know. I looked in the mirror on Sunday and I didn't have any abs, and I was like, what happened? Oh, right. I ate pizza 3 days in a row.
Yeah.
But it can happen that quickly, and I think a lot of it's just water weight, but, these are always things to keep in mind as a general principle, that your appearance can change drastically when you eat a bunch of carbs and to not freak out. But part of my brain, I admit, goes like, oh my God, you're fat, and panics.
Yeah, I'm fat right now. I've been slamming pasta and wine.
That'll do it.
It's great. I mean, it's awesome, but you can only sustain that for so long, and then you're like, shit.
Yeah, I just feel like the general thing that I try to do is like, all right, I had that, well, just to recount it, we had pizza in the office on Friday as a sort of celebration.
That's what got me. Looking back, the pizza party.
That's what kicked it off, and I definitely had a lot of pieces of pizza, and I usually don't drink, but I had a couple beers in the shoey, and then I met up with my buddy Tony on Saturday at this vegan spot, but vegan food will deceive you because it's like, oh my God, it's vegan, it's healthy, but it's like, well, it is all carbs, and that meatball that you're eating, it was like a vegan Italian place, so it's all pizza, it's eggplant parmesan, we had some desserts too, it was all great. I would say the weirdest thing was, in fact, the meatball. It's like crumbling in front of you, and you're like, that was the one thing where I'm like, I'm pretending to enjoy eating this, but I really don't. Everything else was great. And it was cool to see my boy Tony. He was in town. Great guy. He gave me some mushroom microdose pills. And that's going to segue into a conversation that, we've talked about psychedelics. Hella psychedelic. Let's put it up there. Let's just bring it in and say what we're actually doing and not skirt around the fact that we talk about psychedelics here on the podcast. So he gave me some of these pills. And that was on Saturday, and I woke up on Sunday just feeling kind of tired and groggy, took a pill, and I just wanted to report the subjective experience because I've talked about my preference for LSD over mushrooms, and various people have expressed their preferences to me. A lot of people do like mushrooms over LSD, or vice versa, but that is one of the things that's difficult about mushrooms is like getting the exact weight. So weighing it out, how you take it. I've just had more inconsistent experiences with mushrooms, and that's kind of the heart of it is when I have LSD, the experience always seems to be the same. Now, when I took this microdose pill, what I really want to get at is reporting my experience of it from the time I took it. About half an hour later, that feeling of grogginess went away. I felt like my mood went from sort of like dull and unmotivated to a desire to move around, a general increase in my mood. So I went from like neutral or sad to happy. And I generally felt like, because I normally wake up each day, and part of how I measure my subjective experience of life is like, am I thinking of ideas? Am I like able to go like, I have creative problems that I want to solve, like, thinking of stuff for the podcast or, anything else that I'm working on. And is my brain in that place? Because sometimes it isn't. If you're really like in a low mood, or you're just feeling like, depressed or anxious or any one of a number of unpleasant emotions, it's kind of hard to be creative in my experience. And so taking that one microdose pill, and the dose is supposedly 0.18 to 0.22 grams. And by comparison, like a strong dose of mushrooms might be, people will talk about eighths, taking an eighth of an ounce, which is 3.5 grams. I think you could get pretty high off like 2 grams, 1.5, 2 grams would get you that experience, but like a liftoff dose would be 3.5, 3 to 3.5, or more, 5, you can really, like, that would be a very strong psychedelic experience. But so we're talking about, a fifth of a gram, basically. So I was impressed with it. I instantly was like, wow, that's a noticeable difference. It worked as sort of an instant antidepressant, but not in the same exact way as, say, like taking a stimulant where you're like, all right, I know I'm like up and about and kind of have a sort of jittery energy that doesn't necessarily come along with a mood enhancement effect. Caffeine can sometimes do that, but like a caffeine or an Adderall type of stimulant, like it's not necessarily like a happy feeling. And I would notice that it's like with a microdose of mushrooms, there's a more distinct feeling of happiness, but it's also you do have a stimulatory effect akin to taking a cup or two of coffee. So I thought that was really interesting, and it made me think more about stuff that I've mentioned before in the podcast, which is the idea of SSRIs versus psychedelics in the use of depressant medication. And specifically, Elon Musk has been on Twitter recently talking shit. He's been talking all the shit, and specifically, he's been talking about big pharma, SSRIs, being very critical of SSRIs. He said Wellbutrin, which is a dopamine reuptake inhibitor, is more dangerous than Adderall, which is a very interesting and kind of bold statement that I'd like to look into more. But, suffice it to say, if you follow this kind of thing, he was going off, right? And it made me want to look into more of these claims that, that we touched on before with Dr. Rhonda Patrick, et cetera, where the notion is these two things do the same thing. One might be better than the other. And this guy, Leo in Longevity, who I've talked about on the podcast several times before and has this great channel for, anything nootropic related, like putting substances in your body to, essentially it's a biohacking channel. That's probably the best way to put it. Part of that is longevity, because you're biohacking in order to have longevity, but it could be for mental performance or these other things, or even sports performance is an element of biohacking, but it's not strictly any one of those things. So I put on a video on the way over here that was talking about a one-to-one comparison of SSRIs and microdosing psilocybin. It's also interesting to hear from him because unlike somebody like Elon Musk or somebody else you might encounter online who has a sort of anti-pharma or anti-SSRI bias, and I understand there are a lot of things to be critical of, especially the implementation of antidepressants rather than using a more holistic approach where SSRIs might be part of the treatment, but people will hop on SSRIs and do nothing else, and then the outcomes aren't as good. But to say that they're not effective in any way, I think is unfair. However, I listened to this video and thought it was really enlightening as far as what SSRIs do and what psilocybin does. Some quick, comparisons of similarities and differences. So, SSRIs, I didn't realize, take apparently several months to kick in, and specifically with the effects of neurogenesis, creating new neurons in your brain in order for your brain to be more plastic and rewire itself, which apparently is an important part of curing depression. So that may take several months to kick in. However, you're going to get the side effects right away. And some of these side effects include things that could worsen your subjective experience of life. So if you're somebody who's already depressed, right, and you take an SSRI and you get a side effect, like some of the side effects I know include decreased sexual desire or sexual performance, like you can't get an erection, or you can't achieve an orgasm if you do get an erection, etc. Not fun, right? Anhedonia, which is kind of the experience that nothing is pleasurable to you, and part of that is, I guess, SSRIs interfere with dopaminergic transmission. So that is helpful in some ways. Dopamine isn't being, transmitted in the same way. So like addiction might be something that you can cure with that, because if you're addicted to something, it's hijacking your dopamine cycle, right? And you're reliant on that. You're addicted to that rush of dopamine, whether it's a substance, whether it's gambling, whether it's porn. And so an SSRI interferes with that, so you're not getting the same reward from doing those activities. But you're also not getting any reward from doing other healthy activities, right? So it feels like nothing you do brings you any pleasure. So in the short term, if that's happening, you're like, man, I took these SSRIs, my depression hasn't been cured, but like now I enjoy even less things. So there's this connection between SSRIs and suicide risk or suicidal ideation. And Leah was trying to break down like, well, there's a kind of logical reason for why these things might happen because, in the short term, it can create these negative effects, even though technically they are working over the long term. You might be, you're dealing with a pool of people who's already predisposed maybe to suicidal ideation because they're depressed. And then you add on this thing that in the short term, creates a lull in your experience of life versus psilocybin that can actually both directly targets serotonin agonism, so it goes straight to, from my understanding, the serotonin receptor works immediately and also can start creating neurogenesis immediately. And, I want to look more into it, but I didn't realize that they sort of like are working in such similar ways. Like the outcome is like, we're acting on the serotonin receptor, and that psilocybin though does it more directly because rather than prevent the reuptake of your own serotonin, I believe that the psilocybin molecule can bind or agonize directly to the serotonin receptor and therefore can work immediately. Interesting stuff. I want to look more into it, but that's going to be an ongoing thing. I'd like to eventually experiment with SSRIs. Leo's recommendation was to me that anybody on YouTube should take SSRIs to make you more resilient, was the word he used. So like when people come up with stuff like, I look like HGH Santa Claus, like that doesn't bother me as much. So that would be interesting to me because yes, I do deal with a lot of online criticism. It's mostly unfair. It's mostly hurtful. But maybe if I had some SSRIs in combination with the mushrooms, who knows? You could be looking at a whole different Mark, a much happier person who just doesn't really give a hoot what people say about him. So yeah, while I enjoy microdosing mushrooms, the nootropic that I always use every time before my podcast is still kratom. You just can't beat it. And you can't beat the quality that you get from happyhippoherbals.com. So I want you to go there right now and use promo code ThickBoy with 3 C's to use 20% off your next purchase and every single purchase you use after that. And I'll say it again. You can't beat the quality. If you haven't tried kratom, you should try it. Use a small dose. You'll love it. And if you already use kratom, why aren't you using the best at happyhippoherbals.com? Come on, buddy. Another thing that a lot of people have been asking me is, Mark, where'd you get that shirt from? And this is actually true because people ask me, where did I get this shirt from? Because I don't know if you can tell through the video, but this is a really nice feeling shirt. And people notice the quality difference. And I notice it when I wear it. It fits great. It feels great. It's breathable. It's high quality. It's the type of shirt that you put on, you can wear to a variety of functions, right? This would look good at like a holiday or family gathering. You can also wear it out to a bar or something like that. You could even shadow box in a video like you might have seen on Instagram. So unless you've been on a rock, you've been following me, I am working with oakandstoneclothing.com. I love Oak and Stone. I love their products. The guys who founded the company are great individuals, and their mission here is simple. It's to make clothes for guys with athletic physiques and fill that gap in the market that there just isn't a lot of other people doing in a high quality way. This isn't fast fashion. It isn't H&M. This is stuff that's built to last. It's using ethically sourced product, and it's an American business that I urge you to support and support the podcast. Go to oakandstoneclothing.com and use code HELLA at checkout for 10% off and follow them online. Oak and Stone Clothing on Instagram. Thanks. Let's get back to the podcast. All right. We're going to go right into a lot of people have been asking me because it's true. A lot of people ask me a lot of different things online, and sometimes I am here to provide answers for you. Somebody asked me recently, hey, what's your split? And I don't have an answer for that because I've done it all. And currently I'm kind of doing a mix of things, which I'll get into in a second, but I have done full body circuits, upper lower split, 6 days a week. So I'm getting in muscle groups, hitting each muscle 3 times a week. I have done push-pull legs. I have done various bodybuilding splits, including just doing that one muscle a day. I've been doing 6-day-a-week bodybuilding splits where I do antagonistic muscles like chest and bicep, back and triceps, shoulders and, on its own, and then legs, and then repeat, or maybe shoulders and legs on the same day. And so I've been around the block as far as that thing. And my answer to that person, after explaining all that, and before I get into actually what I'm doing, is you should make those decisions through experimentation and also based on what is going to be sustainable for you over the long term. Because there's no perfect split. There's no perfect diet. There are some general principles that you have to somehow merge with your ability to do those things and your desire to do those things and your ability to stay consistent over the course of years. Because when you're talking about putting on muscle, which I have to infer from this question, you're asking me about how I lift weights and how I organize my time in the weight room and how I break up the different muscles. It's all in service of this very general goal of I want to get more muscular. Okay. That's not a process that happens in a month or 6 weeks or 2 months. It's a process that happens long-term over the course of years. So only through experimentation will you find what you generally enjoy doing. And I'm somebody who I've found I like doing the full body stuff if left to my own devices because I don't have to spend that long on any given muscle group. And I've done the bodybuilding stuff where you do 30 sets of chest or whatever, and I just honestly find that boring now. But as a 14-year-old or a 16-year-old, I thought that was really cool to annihilate my pecs until I couldn't, flex them anymore, and you're sore for a week. And it was just this nice reminder of yes, I'm working this and this is sore. And I feel the correlation between the work I put in and the soreness. It reminds me that I'm growing. And that was cool for me then. But then you grow out of that, right? Mark Ripito, this is a famous clip of him where he's like, if you're training to get sore because you enjoy that feeling, grow up. And it's kind of true. You have to grow out of that notion of I didn't get a good workout unless I'm sore. Because you can actually grow without being sore. You can do a few sets per body part and make it intense and do that several times a week and have the volume match what you'd normally do in that, single muscle workout and actually grow more from those repeated bouts that are much shorter. Nowadays, what I do actually, because I end up working out with my client Paul, I do a lot of single muscle stuff. We'll spend the whole day on chest. We'll spend the whole day on back and then also do legs. Now, if you're doing that, if you're doing chest, back, and legs, you're also kind of getting shoulders and arms too indirectly. So as long as I add a little additional volume throughout the week to those things when I can, and sometimes I also I'll do chest with him in the morning and then do chest with Brendan the next day or in the afternoon. I'm not opposed to that. And it's kind of my schedule is unorganized because I'm working out with other people, but it's not the worst thing in the world. If you have enough muscle, if you have a certain level of advancement, you don't need to be organized all the time, and you can hit muscles 2 days in a row or twice in the same day, and it's not going to kill you. I just wouldn't recommend it in the super long term. I would recommend finding something that you like because, burning yourself out in 2 months, you could hit a split, be super disciplined, but you hate it, and you stick to it, and then at the end of it, you're like, this sucks, and I hate lifting weights. You're not going to gain any muscle. You're going to go right back to normal. The person who over the course of years sticks with something, even if it's 3 days a week, which is still great for a lot of naturals, 3 days a week, push-pull legs, or an alternating upper-lower, or 3 days a week, full body, whatever it is, you don't need to spend that much time. You just need to think about, what could I keep up for 5 years? That's where the real transformations come into play. Now, I don't know if I've done Jeff Nippert before. I know I've thought about doing him a lot before, but for Hella Sick Fitness pages, I just want to show you that this is a guy who I send out links from his YouTube stuff, and I'm just putting his Insta here so you can get a quick feel of what he looks like. He's a short king. He is, the Asperger's king of YouTube fitness to me because he's somebody who's super concerned and super organized and concerned with the exact science. And, this study shows that the lat was most stimulated with a medium grip pull down. He's going to give you all that type of information that I don't really give a shit about, but I will inform myself with that, but know that there's not always going to be a direct link between studies and what your results are. because there's a lot of things that could potentially be wrong with studies where you're studying undertrained people. You don't know the intensity level that they're training at. There's all these other variables that it gives you clues and information, but it doesn't always paint the whole picture. This guy does know what he's talking about. And so if you're looking for more like, what do the studies say about how to work out in these particular ways, or what more, what exercises give more activation, quote unquote, which can kind of be a misnomer, because just because something is activated doesn't mean it's like stimulated for growth, or that it's, it's getting most of the tension in a workout, but it provides some data and some clues. And this guy is kind of regarded as one of the best people to do it. I'm bringing this guy up because anytime people ask me about a split, he has these series of videos on YouTube that are like, the best, 5-day whole body workout according to science, the best push-pull legs according to science, the best bro split according to science. So if you look up Jeff Nippert and whatever version of a split you want, like push-pull legs, you can get a really, really good free template of that exact thing that you want, and then I don't have to write out my entire workout. Because people will actually ask me like, hey, what are you doing for diet and workout these days? And it's like, you're asking me to like describe my entire thing. And I want to be able to do that. Maybe a few months ago I would do that, but now I'm just like, oh my God, I can't I'm not going to just like offer up paragraphs. So thank you, Jeff Nippert, because you are allowing me to save a lot of time by just clicking a link to copy and send to this person. But that does bring me into something that I want a little preview for this week's Bro Science Academy. I want to give you a preview of how I approach, for example, the things that I'm doing now when I have a client and I'm doing chest. Here's some general principles that I think about when I'm doing a single muscle workout, okay? We're hitting chest. The basics are going to be 2 to 5 sets per exercise to failure, or within 1 to 2 reps of failure. 3 to 5 exercises per workout. So you can see that ranges from the lowest 6 sets. I would still consider that a workout. If you did, 3 different exercises, 2 hard sets each, you can get a great chest workout with that. But up to 25 sets, if you increase your volume up to that point, you feel like that's needed because you've been slowly ramping it up, and I could probably handle 25 sets right about now, and it wouldn't be overtraining for me. But that would be all you'd need. I wouldn't recommend doing a 25 set chest workout twice in a week, especially if you're natural, and especially not on a regular basis, even if you are enhanced. So the things that I then think about when I go in, because it changes every time, but I use some general principles. I'm coming in and I typically am going to start with a barbell movement or a heavy dumbbell movement. If I start with incline bench, then I would then go to a flat dumbbell bench. If I start with flat bench, then I would then go to an incline dumbbell, right? Basic stuff here. We're mixing and matching because I want to get various angles, but also know that, if you're looking to build your upper chest specifically, just doing incline stuff, whether it's dumbbells or barbells, isn't necessarily sufficient. I want to also get something that's like a Smith machine or a hammer strength machine, really high incline, because you really target your incline, the upper portion of the chest, by coming from low to high and finishing this contraction way up here, right? So there's a great hammer strength machine that's an incline that's like, it feels a little bit too high almost. Or you get on a Smith machine and bring it up here and it's at a higher angle, and maybe you bring it higher up on your chest. You're using a lot less weight, you're using a lot more control, but I believe in starting with these heavy things just to even measure your strength. An incline and flat barbell bench are a great way to measure your output and say, am I making progress with my strength? If you are, chances are your pecs are getting bigger, but then you want to hit everything else to focus on hypertrophy. I mix barbells, dumbbells, I get on machines, bench machine, just a flat bench machine that's not a hammer strength, so it's just like everything's moving at once. Dip machines I really like because it allows you to sit here and stretch, and there is a component to it that's less stressful on my shoulders than doing actual dips. If I do dips, I'm doing heavy dips to start out with at the beginning of the workout, and that's one of these things like flat, like incline barbells. You want to use weighted dips as a strength measurement movement and a primary builder that you can start off with. I wouldn't wait, 3 exercises deep to do weighted dips on your chest because you're just going to be too fatigued. your triceps are going to be fatigued. It's not going to be the best thing. But if you can get to the point where you have 3 plates hanging off your waist, you're probably building some great lower pecs down here, right? And you really do want this full range of motion coming all the way back here, finishing there, finishing here, finishing down there. And the final thing is to add, not the final thing, isolation movements. I use the pec deck, obviously, but I also use dumbbell flies on flat and incline. I have my own way of doing it. When I bring my hands down like this, I make sure to open up, and I always pause on flies. I don't just sit here and I don't bounce out of here. I wait a second, I feel the stretch, and I come up. And with any sort of pec deck, the advantage is that you can also flex here. I always have my chest out because the real function of the pec is to wrap around your sternum, right? So if you're hunched over like this, that's all shoulders. So you always want to have a big breath, a big chest. And sometimes I'll do a double thing right here where I go like boom, boom, I stretch and then come back and contract and contract. So it's like 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. But for me, especially because I have these injuries, I have to make sure that the pain that's in my shoulder isn't interfering with the firing of the pec fibers. And that helps on a pec deck to come in here and just make sure the weight is at the appropriate amount that I can squeeze here and activate fibers that aren't going to be activated on a flat bench. And then finally, a big underrated thing is to do push-ups. Weighted push-ups and deficit push-ups. At the end, I finished this off, my chest workout the other day, with just getting a pair of dumbbells and putting my feet up on an elevation, just on a bench, not that much, but like 10 body weight deficit push-ups, fantastic. Also putting a plate on your back or some sort of weight on your back and doing a push-up, fantastic. And it just engages your pecs in a way because you can move your hands around in a way. You have this freedom of movement and hand placement that you just don't with a bench press. So I feel it in my pecs more, but a lot of people don't do this kind of stuff for whatever reason. It's not as glamorous, but if you can get, if you can stack plates on your back and do push-ups, you're going to be building your chest. Okay, can we get on to some Hella Chef Harley? Here's a little hack. I have been going nuts with the polyunsaturated fats. I was a hater. I was a doubter. Hater of the week is Mark Harley, of course, again, because, for so many years I was like, oh, chia seeds suck. Pumpkin seeds, what are you doing? Flax seeds, get out of here, hippie. I was actually very clear. Like anytime somebody would bring up chia seeds, flax seeds, or I was like, tell me, are you on this train or not?
No, and you're a hippie.
I am a hippie, but it took me realizing that like, oh, you actually, number one, these are all things that are going to help your hair growth out because your hair needs these kind of fats just in your diet. It's going to help you formulate healthy hair, polyunsaturated fats. And also, by the way, these are more calories than you'd think. Like a quarter cup of pumpkin seeds is 160 calories, but you get 6 grams of polyunsaturated fats. 2 tablespoons is 60 calories, not that bad of this flaxseed stuff. And you get 3 grams of polyunsaturated fats. And chia seeds are the monster here, 2.5 tablespoons, 150 calories. So it's like you just put this thing in, it seems like nothing, but it is, it'll add up because I'll eat all these at once. And I've been putting them in my protein pancakes. It actually makes the pancakes taste better. And it's a better consistency, a little thicker, and it's more filling because, again, these are fats. I'm also using these because, one of these things that I'm getting into is the notion of the difference between, animal fats or saturated fats or, if you're getting your fats from fried foods and less than ideal sources versus polyunsaturated fats, that can actually be the difference if you're both eating in a calorie surplus in these two different groups that you're studying. It turns out that if you have all your fats are coming from polyunsaturated, like you're going to gain more muscle than the other group. Whoa. And I was shocked by that, but I realized I shouldn't be because it's the same thing with carbohydrate sources, right? It's like, yeah, man, like if this guy's only eating chips and this guy's eating brown rice, like there's going to be a difference on your insulin, which of course is going to impact, the degree to which you gain fat. And I was plain ignorant before. And I fault myself for that because you get into little routines and you convince yourself of things all the time in your life where you're like, no, it's fine. I don't need chia seeds. Chia seeds are total bullshit, right? Wrong. Now, there's going to be more on that. And I wanted this, again, is from Tyann Clark, and I'm going to be going more into his general diet recommendations because he has a lot of mind-blowing stuff. How are we doing on time? Do we have time for this? Why we can't have nice gyms, amongst other things? So we got one here. Then we got a kind of, we got a smorgasbord of videos that I want. Okay, look at this. Boom, goes up to dunk it, goes all the way around the rim. Oh, doesn't make it. Boom, right in the face. And why am I including this? And this is why we can't have nice gyms. I'm including this because basketball is part of the gym, right? This is like an outdoor gym. It's so that rim is so low.
Yeah.
And he's still putting it right. I just love those kind of things where people get mad and then, hit themselves in the face.
Because you can only get madder from there.
Right. And then the person who filmed it, I wonder if, when that happens, like, does the guy go, please don't post that?
Yeah.
And then it just goes viral.
I like the caption, too. This guy's going places. Not to the NBA, but places.
Oh, my God. All right, let's go on the next one. Again, these are a little unconventional. Oh, shit, look at the cakes on that dog, huh? That dog is packing some peach right there.
Yeah, cheeks for weeks.
Cheeks for weeks. Let me tell you.
Girl.
I want to buy that dog's booty program. 8 weeks to the best doggy buns of your life. Now, this one's just, it's like, I go, why am I including this? Because it's impressive athletically. Look at what this bear is doing. He's a calisthenics master. He's basically doing a pull-up on this rope, and he's doing like a ropes course. Haters will say, this bear has better grip strength than me. And they'd be right. Oh, and he's getting it with his feet. He's holding himself up, and he's actually getting this little birdhouse. I wonder if he's going to be disappointed. Oh, and he's hanging from the birdhouse. See, I didn't even see this part. He's hanging off. Oh, and he lets it go. Okay, so
he
ultimately.
Just slingshotted it 300 yards into the air.
Oh, my God, that's funny. And what do we got here? Oh, yes. This reminded me of this is like the plot of The Happening by M. Night Shyamalan in one 10-second video, which I didn't see, by the way. Everybody said it was horrible, but it was like, when the environment strikes back and this guy's cutting down a tree, it lands, a branch snaps off and flies all the way through the air and just nails this guy in the face. Do you see that? No, yeah. You might not see it at first, and I didn't either. I'm like, the tree didn't miss a single throw. What does that mean?
Why didn't he?
Right, he's looking right at it, and the guy, the branch flips through. But that is such a big log. I mean, it looks like it's like 8 feet long, and it just whacks him. Would I be shocked if that guy was now dead? No. Would I be surprised if he had major damage to his face that required reconstructive surgery? Also no. Do I really care? No, because obviously he's somebody who just doesn't have any regard for this tree, so why should I have any regard for his face?
Once again, caption on point. The tree chose vengeance.
See, I didn't see that before. Good shit. All right. We got one final one here. One, two. Oh! The guy. Now, I know. Sorry, Casey. I just queued up a video where a guy probably breaks his neck and is paralyzed now and just didn't give Casey any warning because that's the kind of guy I am. But I love this kind of stuff. I mean, I have to assume that, I don't know for a fact, but I assume he's not paralyzed. But I love stuff like this because it's like, if I were to do a backflip off the ropes, I think I'd have it down. You know what I mean? It's I think I'd be I'd work through the steps of I know what it feels like to do a backflip and know exactly. And I've taken, I used to take diving as a kid, not that I'm an expert, but I know what it feels like to do a flip and the process of working through more difficult movements, like doing a backflip off a high dive or doing a gainer, which, requires you to I slammed my back a lot on the water and eventually got it. But I don't know really if this guy's trying to do two flips.
It looks like he's trying to do a double. Yeah. I only saw it once, and I'm not going to watch that again, but it looked like he was trying to do a double.
So that's my feeling on it. But then, again, it's if you're going to do two, first of all, there's no reason to do two flips.
Nah.
You're not in the WWE.
Yeah.
There's literally no stakes on the line. And the consequences of missing that are not that you might get a red mark on your back in the water. It's your neck's going to be broken. So why would you do that for this? I don't know. I guess it's just always this, and same thing with we talked about skating and rollerblading. It's there comes a point where as you mature, you're there's no point in doing this.
Yeah.
There's the stakes aren't high enough. There's nobody watching you. This isn't going to be paid off in any way that makes it in any way worth the risk of injuring your spinal cord permanently. But now that I'm on the Thick Boy Network, having my own podcast, I feel like I could do maybe today's the day that I've been talking about doing a backflip. And okay, yeah, okay. Wish me luck, Casey. 1, 2. Oh.